Now it's time to take a closer look at Honda's brand new custom chopper, the Fury. Recently, while in Daytona Beach, we caught up with Honda Canada at the bike's official press introduction. There, not only did I get a chance to sample the Fury up close and personal in a near perfect cruiser environment. I mean, how can you beat Daytona Beach during Bike Week? But also following a lengthy technical presentation for the Canadian media, I got a chance to chat one-on-one with Honda's technical guru, Warren Milner. I wanted to know, after nearly 2 decades of producing pretty standard-looking V-twin cruisers, how did Honda come to create such a radical-looking piece?
Everybody sort of did the same thing, you know, and they each sort of copied the other and took elements until it sort of became a bit of a hodgepodge, a big melting pot, and they all more or less look the same. So starting point, again, Honda wanted, you know, to be different. So what is a cruiser? You know, a cruiser is about style and image. Ironically, it's about standing out from the crowd, and yet all the cruisers look the same, and all the cruiser riders, you know, wear the same outfits, and, you know, you get lost in that sea of sameness.
Right.
So Honda was saying, you know, it's about style, it's about image. We need a stylish, you know, image product, but it needs to be different, and it needs to go back to what does the rider want. So we went back to sort of the origins of the chopper and said, you know, the original choppers were not about luxury and bells and whistles and, you know, performance this and performance that. It was really an elemental motorcycle, you know, nothing more than an engine, a frame, and the bare minimum requirements for riding safely.
Right.
So we sort of took that theme of bare minimum, you know, and we wanted a bike that was that, looked that, projected that, and felt like that when you rode it.
Right.
So again, looking at the Fury, you know, sort of very quickly you can see that. There's a big engine, you can see the entire engine, no part of the engine is hidden by any parts of bodywork or anything else. You can see a very simple steel tube motorcycle frame that looks like a motorcycle frame, you know,
yeah.
And there isn't a lot else to it. You know, it's a very pure, clean, uncluttered chopper, you know, going back to the essence of what choppers were.
Well, there's no question that this is certainly a huge step forward when it comes to straight off the showroom floor design. While we were shooting stills of the Fury for this program down on the beach, people were constantly approaching us with questions about the bike. One guy even insisted on taking his own photos. Meanwhile, out on the road, all I can tell you is that the Fury feels like a chopper. You know, a motor, 2 wheels, and a seat. There's plenty of arm straightening grunt, and although still a tad on the quiet side, it certainly sounds like a one-off custom. Bottom line, when it comes to the Fury, it's not really about what's there, it's more about what's not there. Sure, there's the honkin' 1300cc liquid-cooled V-twin, but it looks massive because there's no plastic shrouds or fake covers. And just like the old school approach to chopping a sickle, you can see right through the frame. And remember, this block's liquid cooled. Notice there's no rad hoses. In fact, the rad's barely discernible. I might even go as far to say that unlike previous Honda cruisers, you have to take a really close look at this bike to even know that it's a Honda. And that's the way Milner likes it.
Ironically, the thing that really stuck out to me with this bike, the thing that really impressed me the most about this bike, is I looked at it and I said, this isn't a Honda. And then I sat on it and said, this is a Honda. You know, to look at it, it's not Honda. It is different. It's something we've never done that really none of the Japanese or even some of the domestics have ever done. It really stands out and looks different and looks non-Honda, non-traditional. But you sit on it as a Honda guy, you feel right at home. You know, there's a Honda-ness to it somehow that comes through and says, oh yeah, okay, this is a Honda. So it really sort of spoke to me on both sides of that. And I think, again, Honda fans will like it because there's a sense of familiarity there. But, you know, people completely new to Honda will say, wow, this thing's just cool in its own right.
And if you want to know just how far the Honda designers were willing to go to help this machine make a statement, remember, it's got to look good standing still, but at some point, you got to ride it, right?
Motorcycles are all about motion. you know, and about the open road and freedom and so on and so forth. So anything that sort of enhances that look, that really emphasizes motion, you know, really sort of talks to the motorcyclist. You know, you see one go by and you say, you know, for some reason that just looks cooler because, you know, there's this real sense of motion. And I'm sure you've heard the expression, you know, something looks fast standing still. Well, this is sort of the opposite of that. This thing looks, you know, at its coolest, you know, just moving along slowly. It really has a sense of hey, wow, this thing is different. This thing stands out in the crowd, and it's really, you know, is different.
Right.
So again, the spokes on these wheels, the way they are shaped, they're sort of, you know, round as they leave the hub and sort of flatten towards the rim. And when they get near the rim, there's sort of a real little triangle of flat metal that catches the light. And because it's near the rim, of course, it's making a fairly big arc as it rotates, and it gives a real sense of motion. You really get the sense of those wheels are turning, and that this is a vehicle in motion. And interestingly, on cameras, you know, quite often you'll get that sort of moire effect where, you know, the wheels sometimes look like they're going backwards, sometimes look like they're going forward. You know, it's a really interesting look that I have never seen before in a cruiser.
Now that's what I call attention to detail.